What's up guys, my name is Officer WJR and I am a local police officer in the state of Virginia. The idea for this channel and video came to me not only because I love video games and Resident Evil, but also because of my own passion for what I do. So I've decided to create content that is me breaking down police in video games and other works of fiction. So without any further delay, let's break down one of video games' most famed police units, the R.P.D. STARS.
Alpha Team is flying around the forest zone situated in northwest Raccoon City, where we are searching for the helicopter of our compatriots, Bravo Team.
In the opening cinematic, we're treated to a little lore building from Chris. There is an abundance of murder cases involving victims being eaten by a large group of people. Okay. He then goes on to state that their Bravo Team, though, was sent in to investigate. Now, the one error I'm seeing already here is the fact that the RPD sent in a SWAT-like unit to do an investigation. Some of you are probably wondering what the big deal is and what's wrong with that. Well, from the narration we were just given, I can assure you that these murders are going to be investigated by homicide detectives. And the fact that the RPD is sending in a more combat unit to do the investigation is just a little unrealistic. Due to the nature of the case, it would make sense to send in the STARS unit, yes, but also deploy them with the homicide detective division as well. I'm not saying the STARS officers are unable to do the investigations, but the detectives in the homicide unit are a thing for a reason, to investigate homicides. You might as well use them as they have more experience in that field anyway.
And it turned into a nightmare.
This is just another minor nitpick I had with the opening cutscene. The STARS Alpha Team sees the wreckage of their Bravo Team's helicopter and immediately goes in for the landing. At this moment, the team should have stayed airborne and radioed for additional units to respond out and at least given their location before landing. But instead they just landed. And another thing, we have a group of officers, the Bravo Team, sent into the middle of the woods and no one has heard back from them. So the RPD's most genius idea was just to send in another heli unit. At this moment, you would probably have K9 out there, the TAC team, patrol officers, possibly state PD, and so much more. We take officer safety so serious that this just looks ridiculous in hindsight. Look, it makes sense sending a heli unit in first for recon, but that should not be the only unit looking for lost officers. In a realistic scenario, you're going to have just about the whole department out there looking for those lost officers, but I could pick this apart all day, so we'll just move on from this scene for now. Okay, so I'm actually going to give them props here. I'll give them props for the most part for keeping their firearms at a ready position and not down or up in the air like most fiction portrays the police. If you notice, one factor that's going to kill Joseph is that he lowered his guard. It's just very important never to let your guard down in this situation. Also, Jill has good trigger discipline, so that's a plus there. Okay, so I'm willing to forgive the team for lack of radio communication, but the amount of communication among them as a team is a bit unrealistic. It's hilariously quiet for a police squad like this one to not use any communication for this long. You don't need to shout, but communication could be the defining line between someone getting hurt or possibly wandering off in this scenario. As we see with Joseph again, he wasn't too far from Jill, but it seemed like Jill just kept pressing on while Joseph was left behind a little. This was due to lack of communication between the two. Also, why is Jill so quiet when Joseph was being attacked? She should be yelling out, shots fired, or officer down, or anything really. Put yourself out there is all I'm saying. Don't be a mouse when you have an officer being attacked, especially like this one. Okay, so another thing that I'm just going to pick apart real quick is their use of flashlights. I learned very early on in my rookie phase that you do not want to have a constant light around you. If someone was hiding in the bushes or behind a tree, they're going to see every team member out there in the woods with their lights on, and it just makes it easier to just pick them off. Instead, the team should have used a sort of on and off method with their lights. I understand it's dark, but I've been in situations in the dark like this, and what you want to do is quickly turn on your light, canvas what you have in front of you, and turn it off for a few steps before turning it back on again. That way you're not giving away your location to the potential threat.
Hey, Brad! Where the hell's he going?
Okay, so I know Brad redeems himself later on in the game because, he comes back and he drops you the rocket launcher, but leaving your team like this, that is not cool, not at all. Now, I know Barry is known for his iconic 44 Magnum, I get that, but this is not the ideal weapon for a scenario like this one. Most of the STARS unit has a standard issue 9mm Samurai Edge, or in the real world, just a Beretta. Why is Barry the only one carrying a revolver? This isn't me saying no officers carried revolvers in the 90s. No, I'm just saying that around this time when officers did carry a firearm like a revolver, usually it was their personal firearm that would be carried with another department issued firearm or a firearm that's picked from the department's approved list. The reason for this being is that a revolver just doesn't carry as much ammo as a semi-automatic pistol, and when reloading, unless you have a speed loader, is going to be the difference in a gunfight. We do see ammo with speed loaders later on in the game for the Colt Python Magnum, but even still, the fact that Barry doesn't carry a second firearm that's a semi-auto is just a little odd to me.
But we've got to find...
What was that?
Chris?
No.
Jill, go and investigate.
I'm going with her.
Building work is some of the most important things you will honestly learn in a police department. In this scene, we will see Jill and Barry somewhat clear a door, and I'm going to be honest, it was not the smartest way to clear that door. We have something called a fatal funnel, and basically it's fatal to stand anywhere within, well, the funnel of the door. Barry was right in the middle of that fatal funnel and put himself at extreme risk, especially since we just heard gunfire coming from potentially that room. Now the next stupid thing in this one scene is Barry charging in and Jill not coming in to cover him. When someone enters a room, you or another officer will check whatever he isn't covering. So from what we see, Barry is covering the long distance of the dining hall. When Barry entered the room, Jill should not have still been hugging the door, but instead come in behind him and snap to his right, covering that shallow corner. We could honestly spend all day though breaking down building work, but we'll just move on for now. Oh my god, I think this is the most hilarious thing we'll probably see in this entire video. Now this might just be camera work, but I'm pretty sure Jill has her gun pointed right at the back of Barry's head. I'm sure most of you can tell that Jill just muzzled Barry. This is taken so seriously that if you muzzled anyone in the academy, you were almost guaranteed to be fired. It actually happened to a guy in my academy. There's not really much to say here, but yeah, don't point your gun at the back of your buddy's head, okay?
I think you'd better take a look at this.
What is it?
Blood.
Ew! Not only is this extremely disgusting, but no police officer is ever going to put anything they find in the field in their mouth, okay? As a cop, you will see so much nasty stuff and go to so many nasty places that you're going to want to shower with bleach as soon as you get home, I swear. And also, what does he need to examine? It's blood. He doesn't appear to have any forensic equipment on him, and nothing in his background suggests he has a forensic background. So, I don't know. This whole scene is just stupid.
Jill, see if you can find any other clues. I'll be examining this.
If I didn't bore most of you already with my rants about building work, there's still one more thing I want to address. Jill and Barry are standing right in front of another door, as players will soon see after the scene plays out. So let's not forget we just heard a gunshot go off in this area. So why are we stopping to examine blood? Immediately after clearing this room, Jill and Barry should make their way to the next door and begin to make entry into the next room. And remember the fatal funnel I was talking about earlier? Yeah, I'm sure they're standing right in that door's funnel, by the way. Meaning that if the threat wanted to start shooting from behind that door, both Jill and Barry risk being shot by gunfire. Again, really stupid decisions here. Oh, and one more thing. Barry sends Jill to go clear a room where that gunfire more than likely just came from by herself. I don't think much needs to be said about how stupid that is, but more heads is better than one in a gunfight. That officer could be the difference in life or death. This also applies to the rest of the game wherein Barry suggests splitting up in the beginning act. Now I'm sort of nitpicking with that one just because we all know Barry is helping Wesker out, and if you want to kill your team, splitting up is a good way to do so.
Wesker! Jill, help me look for him. Let's not leave this hall.
Good idea.
Okay, so this is probably my last gripe and I'll be done, but where are the radios? You're telling me they sent a unit into the middle of the woods in the dead of the night with maybe one radio? We see that Wesker carries an earpiece, so what's up with that? I can jump on the probable reason for lack of radio communication maybe being up to, no radio signal, but I don't even think the STARS team deployed with radios other than Richard from what we see. Now I'll be honest when I say I'm not the most radio savvy guy out there, but a lot of radios have a channel called Talk Around, where any radio in the vicinity of the radio you're using can communicate with each other if you're within a reasonable distance. So basically it's a walkie-talkie feature. We do see that they have radio problems later when Jill tries to communicate with Brad, but my overall gripe is that almost no one came with a radio.
Blood.
So anyway guys, that'll about do it for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, let me know and maybe I can do a part 2. I know I only covered the first few minutes of the game and there are probably a lot more things to be picked apart, but I'll just have to include those in a separate video for now. Until then, I'd appreciate it if you guys would press that like button, comment, and even subscribe so I can see if this is something you guys would like to see more of. I really enjoyed making this video and I wouldn't mind doing a lot more like it in the future. So until the next video guys, I'll see you around.